Welcome to the Crypto News. In this video, Raoul Pal, the CEO and co-founder of Real Vision, shares his thoughts on the current macro environment and today's current economic situation. Listen to what he has to say.
Are we in a recession?
Yeah, probably. I know everyone on Twitter's flinging poo at each other, whether it's a recession or not, and the government stepping in. But basically, 2 quarters of negative GDP, not good. Usually that's given a 100% chance of a recession. We haven't had confirmation yet from things like the ISM survey, the Institute of Supply Managers survey. That usually drops to about 47. I'm expecting that in the next month or two. And then we'll be definitely there. So we're there or thereabouts. It feels that way. The markets have traded that way. We're seeing job cuts coming. We're seeing a lot of evidence, and even the bond market's starting to tell us that. So it feels that the recession is here. Thing that gives you the best guide is something called the ISM survey. And you can Google it, you can find it, it's publicly available. And that basically, anything above 50, the economy's expanding. Anything below 50, it's kind of stalling. And anything below 47 is a recession. And that's been going since about 1947. It's an incredibly good indicator and really useful. So think of it as a kind of weekly version of GDP. So that gives you a very quick ballpark. And what's really interesting that no economists figure out, and I don't understand this, is it goes up and down. It's cyclical, right? Economists have linear projections. It's like, really? You can show a small child a chart of GDP and they go, well, it goes up and down. So what it does, if you see it going down and crossing 50, we're likely to be headed into a weak patch or a recession. If it's coming up from the lows, we can start looking forwards. So that's a really simple guide. The other way is the bond market's usually very good at this. So once yields start falling, bond markets are generally derive their price action from 2 things, GDP growth and future inflation. So if bond yields are rallying, it's saying that GDP is probably slowing down, i.e. there's a chance of stimulus to come and bonds look a safe haven. And secondly, that inflation is likely to come down in the future. So those 2 things alone give you pretty much all you ever need to know. Now, what's really interesting, the second degree of all of that is there's a bit of magic. So you look at this ISM survey, you go, well, how does it help me with my equity allocation or my allocation? All you do is just turn it into a year-on-year chart. And all of the year-on-year charts of every asset, from oil to bonds to commodities, to copper, to equities, to emerging markets, to credit spreads, are all the same chart. They're driven by the business cycle. And some things are pricing in more right now and others are pricing in less. So the bond market's pricing in less, as is the oil market. But things like tech stocks are pricing in an ISM of 35, which is a deep recession. So then it gives you kind of a relative understanding of, okay, where should I be looking at allocating my money? So there's some relatively simple tools. Yeah, does technical analysis lead to price action or does it not? All I know is if you listen to Stan Druckenmiller over the last 20 years, every time he gives an interview, he says, you know where the economy is by looking at the internals of the stock market. What does he mean? It means things like consumer discretionary stocks versus utilities. If the economy's slowing, then discretionary stocks, i.e. the discretionary spending, tends to fall. Utilities are the things we have to have, so they tend to do well. They're all correlated with the business cycle. The business cycle, I've got business cycle indicators going back to 1870. They still work. So even though more people might look at them over time, I still don't think it's necessarily the driver of price action. If not, you would have seen more assets price in the same move. But we haven't, right? We've got bonds up here, haven't priced in much of a weakening ISM. And then we've got tech stocks, which are at the bottom, which are priced in a massive amount of weakening. So it's clearly not efficient yet. Now, the question is here is more complicated because we've got these supply issues. We've got, onshoring. We've got other things that are muddying the equation. And what we've got is this big debate. So myself, David Rosenberg, and maybe Urian and a few others kind of think we probably mean revert because of debt, demographics, technology, that inflation's not a long-term issue. But there's a whole other group who I really respect who are saying, no, you're dead wrong. Inflation's sticky, it's here to stay, and it's a big problem. And we won't know. And this is the beauty of financial markets, right? It's game on now. We've got the game. We place our bets and we'll find out who's right and who's wrong. Elon Musk tweeted out yesterday, somebody who'd been talking about the inflation in his supply chains,
Right.
said, we're seeing prices peak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He is a consumer of a lot of different raw materials.
That's right.
And he's telling us this. And we're seeing that all over the place. So, okay, so why is it at 9% now? Well, inflation is a lagging indicator. It looks back over prices. So still we're seeing some companies pushing through price increases of commodities that they bought 6 months ago that they've turned into cereal boxes that they've now put on the shelves, right? So it's a delayed process. And eventually the delay comes the other way. The other big delay is rents, because the housing market is slow to move. It's not like equity markets that can move very quickly. So as the housing market comes down and mortgage rates come down, rents will slowly come down. But that can take a while. And it's the same with wages. So we're now just starting to see all the tech companies laying off people, all the crypto companies laying off people. So that's going to be pretty broad-based and pervasive. It's not gigantic because oil companies are doing well and other people are doing well. But that process then feeds through. So usually what happens is 18 months later, 12 to 18 months later, you get the reverse. And I actually think we go to negative inflation, which is not what anybody else thinks.
Right.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Stan.